Good morning, good evening, good... Wait. Ben's not here.
Hello there. If you didn't already know, and if you've, well, I think the only way you couldn't know is if you had actually been living in a cave on a desert planet for the past few months, probably. Obi Wan Kenobi, the TV series, has been released this past week. And, my God, have we been excited.
I mean, you can tell some of us are getting into the spirit of things.
Spirit, I see what you did there as well.
The spirit of it.
Yeah.
They need to keep that thing low, but we'll get to all of our thoughts about what Star Wars is doing.
Yeah,
because that's what this video is going to be about. Just a little taster of what our thoughts are on the 2 parts that have been released so far.
We've finally watched both episodes.
Finally, because it's probably more my fault than anything. I have mentioned before that I'm anti-binge watch anything.
And I'm with you, because you can... I fully get it now. I used to happily just like smash through a whole series, mainly at uni, because I had nothing better to do. But yeah, ever since you brought that up, actually, fair point, because you should all follow this advice. 1 episode a night.
Yeah,
give you time to mull it over.
It kind of works, but it's the fact I get it works for certain people, and it's like how things are done. And I suppose this is in keeping with the old unpopular opinions, because I know no one's agreeing with me. But yeah, TV's starting to try and recapture what people liked about TV in the first place. So you are seeing these weekly releases and stuff like that, which people just had to deal with. They had to almost be excited for something that was going to keep coming round. And nothing's really been using it, but I'm still glad to keep seeing it, even when you'd see the old Netflix series start recently, and it was actually advertising that it was weekly releases. And that's actually different now, whereas that was just the norm.
So what you're saying is it's good that we're actually getting like weekly releases, aren't we? Yeah, that's exactly it, to be fair.
So I was hesitant with the 2 parts being released because they always do this.
Yeah.
This, however, and this goes without spoiling anything really, if you are just waiting to be convinced to go and enjoy it, it's probably the first of the series where they've released a couple of episodes at the start where it actually seemed to make sense.
Yeah, it did feel more like 2 parts of the same episode almost.
It
didn't feel like 2 separate episodes, you know what I mean? No?
Yeah.
Does that make sense to say it like that?
But it's the whole thing about it, sort of, and this is generally that sort of wide description of what the series will probably be, and it's just giving that room to breathe, and that's why I think I can justify these 2 parts being almost inseparable, because you've got people that they're either basically going into this series because they're mad about the prequels, or they're our generation, they grew up on them, and they're just blinded by the fact that they've got Ewan McGregor, but also everything else they know they're getting from this series. So they're blinded by that, they're going to love it regardless. Or you've got people that are interested, have that appreciation, have that, come from that same part of the fan base, and then they're just going to be bored. And they're wrong, but at the end of the day, that first episode, because it's trying to just give you the room to breathe, get you into it, introduce what it needs to.
It's a perfect setup, I thought.
People could have easily watched that first episode and not bothered.
Yeah.
Or by next Friday, lost interest completely. So yeah, that second one, I get it. And I know that's why they always do it, but it made sense here.
No, you're dead right. It's that's what I was just going to cut in with. Episode 1 was that first episode. Sorry, was just literally perfect, like sort of setting the scene of like where everyone seems to be at this point.
Yeah.
So yeah, you don't really get much in the way of action or anything, but it doesn't need to. It's literally just laying the foundations for what you're going to get and for everything to sort of springboard off, and then that second episode really just throws you straight into the story then, doesn't it? It's like, alright, this is what's happening, this is sort of what's going to kick everything off, I suppose.
Yeah.
The reason this series is even happening. Or the plot line, let's say. Yeah, nothing much in the first bit, particularly other than, wow, it's back. Visually beautiful. But yeah, that second one really just kicks it off. It does feel like that was it just revving up and then boom, there you go. That sort of smacks you straight into it then in the second bit, doesn't it?
I think regardless, you're getting, just from these two parts, you're getting, we'll get into like where we think this is maybe going, but it seems like you're getting a good overall taste of all sides of where this series is going to cover, because you do get that time where it's given a lot of room, given a lot of just like patience with the story, and then you've got a lot of what is happening in episode 2 showing just how far they might want to push the action. So I think it's promising at least to cover the rest of what is on its way.
And also how confusing it is mentioning like episode 1, episode 2, and all I'm thinking is Attack of the Clones, Phantom Menace. Did you mention them there?
See, that's another thing. I mean, I always get a bit sort of just, I don't know what the word is, but sort of like not disappointed, but just a bit sort of uninterested with the whole how like a series will name or title their parts, and like this one is parts.
Yeah, actually.
Book of Boba Fett was obviously chapters, because of course it was. Yeah.
That's a good point. Yeah, it's just very yeah.
So, I mean, from that, I'm not going to talk about just nitpicky little details for a change.
What?
Like, I mean, I know there probably was, but was there anything that was like glaringly just like off-putting, considering how you've gone into this and how you might have been falling into that category of someone who go into it blindly just loving it?
Oh yeah, I mean, straight away I'm like, I've wanted something like this to be out for years.
Yeah.
So
and it's been rumoured for ages.
Exactly. So, yeah, with the whole like, oh, is it going to be a film? Is it a TV series? So anything to do with Obi Wan, I'm fully there for. So yeah, going into it, I'm thinking, yes, this is going to be amazing. Probably no matter what. Although obviously slightly sceptical after the sequels, because I went in blindly on them. Let's say. So I always have my. I'll go at it carefully now. That nice, sensible scepticism, let's say, to go in with. But everything I'd seen from the trailers, I was like, oof, this is everything I'm going to want and more, probably.
See, that's another thing, because I'm hesitant with trailers.
Yeah.
And that's another annoying thing that I don't really share with a lot of people, but like, I watched the first trailer and it did its job, I was sold.
Exactly, yeah.
I know the second one everyone lost their mind about, and by now I probably will go and watch it. But yeah.
Can I just say before I forget to, the beautiful thing with the way they've done the trailers is it didn't give anything away that you didn't already see in episode 1 and 2.
Well,
pretty much everything you see in the trailers has happened in these episodes, so it's not really giving anything away.
Yeah, that first trailer.
I feel like I'm going in way more blind into the rest of the series now. Because any little clips you've seen there, I've literally just seen like last night watching that second episode. Yeah. And as well, it didn't give anything away towards what the story, the main plot line was going to be either.
Because all
the
glaring,
sort of come out of nowhere.
All the glaring things have already been sort of not spoiled, but because it wasn't even spoiled, it's like everyone just knew things were going to happen. So no one was bothered when things got revealed. Like.
Yeah. But yes, coming back to that then. Are we getting into spoilery bits now?
Well, we're going to
kind of have
we've
to.
got
really,
past some general sweeping statements. If you haven't seen it, if you're convinced,
do yourself a favour and go watch it now. It
needs to happen.
Go watch it. Go.
And now that you're back,
now I'm back. I think you'll probably agree with me anyway. Never been a massive fan of the Inquisitors.
Or staring at how you're pointing at you.
Yeah, I know. I was trying to count how many there was. even from watching Rebels and that in the past, the Inquisitors aren't my favourite characters.
Yeah.
And one in particular, because they seem to be focusing on Reva, or Rava. Is it Reva?
You only said
You only hear it like mentioned once, I think.
at the end of the other episode.
Oh my god, she's awful. I just don't like her at all. There's nothing. I get what they're trying to put across with her character.
Go into how annoying she is.
Like, she just pisses me off. Like, every time she's on screen, just I don't know if it's the way she's acting. Everything seems really hammy and like she's really, really over the top with it. And I don't know if they're trying to, if it's capturing that whole sort of thing. Because I mean, all right, fair enough. We can all agree the prequels performances were over the top in the way Lucas wrote the scripts and stuff. So they sort of played up to all that. So I don't know if it's just sort of following off from that.
You do sort
or
of,
if it's just her in the way she's acting. But oh my Christ, she's not fun at all when she's on screen. Jesus.
I mean, like I agree because I know exactly what you're talking about. But yeah, as for what you were implying as well, I feel like, just to be devil's advocate, I feel like there's the intention in the sense where if she was playing a subtle version of that character, where she actually maybe looked like she knew what she was doing and was actually quite composed and ready to do what she's doing rather than just be a weapon, which seems to be the beginning and ending of what the Inquisitors are. They're not, and that comes into why they're not that good. They're not that strong as like characters really, because it's just there's not much more to them than just being used. And whereas that worked for even a character like Maul that in Phantom Menace said like a line or something, you still got the point of that, the same how it was then shown in subsequent characters like that, Dooku, and then obviously as they expanded on those characters in the Clone Wars and any other sort of attempts that have been made. Whereas Rebels then seem to just imitate that maybe by bringing in things like the Inquisitor and stuff like that. And as much as other properties might have tried to do things with it, and how, say, like something like Fallen Order.
Right, yeah.
With what little experience I've got of that game, the sense and that atmosphere of that post-prequels galaxy has such a stamp on it, and you can see that recreated in these two parts, which is really nice, because they're knocking on the same door rather than just basically presenting a similar time and a similar story, but at two different angles. It would feel weird where they do feel like, okay, these are happening in similar spaces, and whereas the Inquisitors might be presented a little better in that, at the same time they're coming from that source that isn't that strong. So you've really got to do well. So I think in this, because it's this thing where some people know what these are, some people don't, I think it has to be this like unsubtle character with an attitude problem, basically, to go against these sort of by the book, almost automated characters like the other Inquisitors who are just so like precise at doing what they're doing, and they've got this sort of persona about them and stuff. Whereas she's just like, she's got to present herself, even though she's irritating and annoying. It tricks your brain into treating them like she's an actual person, because the way she's acting is like how someone would act in our world. So I think that's the jarring part, because it doesn't seem like Star Wars. But it's so obvious that it seems to be like it can't not be intentional.
Yeah, I'm hoping it is. Yeah. I'm really hoping it is.
Because the actor's great in Queen's Gambit, which again, I think that's just a mixed bag.
That's what she's from.
Like I thought that was some of the like best TV in a long time, and I know with others it's fell completely flat and no one really likes it. And
I thought it was great too.
That's the point where I'm saying, even if it comes down to the acting, it's like in that as much as she was playing quite a bold character, it was so layered and so like understated in parts, where I feel like this seems way more obvious and sort of just like that there's something else to it. But yeah, it's annoying and that can be distracting, and that's why some of these things and some of maybe even lines that have been said have then thrown you off, and if that takes you out of the story, then obviously it's a bad thing. So I do agree. But...
especially at the end of that episode 2, where she's sort of screaming up at the ship. I was like, oh, there's no need, love. Like, just fucking shut up. Stop. Yeah. That was horrendous. It sort of took away a bit from the actual... like, what was actually going on there to me. Like, I was like, oh, you're ruining it. Just shut up. Just shut up. Like, we've just seen. You don't need to then just explain exactly what is going on. We've just seen the whole thing play out. Like, shut up.
I mean, that's the kind of worrying thing, but it seems to... that sort of comes into, well, where is that going to push? Because it seems like quite quickly, after the first episode, you think, oh, is this going to be a setup for the whole series? And then after the second, you think, oh, okay. Or during the second, you think, oh, this is quite a contained double episode. So is then the rest of this series going to be more to do with the Inquisitors, this particular Inquisitor's seeming obsession, but it seems like there is actually that motivation of trying to build her status.
Yeah.
And it's like, because this is building to Vader, is that the main point of this? Like, and it's really, at the minute, the Inquisitors just
not doing it.
But I'd say that's where a lot of the problems begin and end.
Yeah, I can't think of much else I didn't like about it.
Yeah.
I mean, the use... first things first. We just jump straight into the good stuff, I think. Because, yeah, I can't think of anything more to moan on about.
Yeah, you've had your little rant, it's fine.
Yeah, got that out of the way quick. Initially, that first scene where there's sort of the flashback to Order 66 at the temple.
Opening was...
that was
one of the best like openings to... well, any of the Star Wars shows. I'll leave it at that, because it's like, I love it, but I'm not going to try and compare it to anything at the minute.
The use of... obviously seeing... when it's harking back to, obviously, like, episode 3, and that whole use of CGI on everything, actually seeing clones in proper physical costumes.
It instantly knew, like, it hit.
It felt actually kind of scary. It's like, oh, they're actual real... because you could tell they were actually really there then. It was proper actors in costumes.
Everything kind of looks flimsy, as much as, say, even the Order 66 montage and all getting wiped out, as much as it still has that impact, because everything is this, but everything is literally the same. Whereas in that, it kept the atmosphere of that film and how that was presented, but how it basically presented it in the way that your brain remembers it. When it's something, when you're recalling something that you love, you picture it how it was intended, which kind of shows that the film was a success in the first place, because it's how it's getting you using your brain keeps it together.
That whole bit following through the temple,
doing
after
so
that,
much
the
more
choreography,
of what was already there.
The way that was choreographed, perfect.
Just tracking through with that. That Jedi. I love that. And it's a case of, like, again, these like wordless scenes basically, and then to sort of complement that with also basically silence from Obi Wan in the middle of nowhere, doing nothing with his life, sort of thing.
Although somehow, I think what he is doing with his life is maintaining his beard.
Yeah.
How does he keep that thing so pristine when he lives in the middle of nowhere and they all comment on him not having a shower?
I can't do it now.
I was going to say, it's tough trying to keep this thing up. That's ridiculous.
I've managed a Jedi hairstyle a little bit, but it's a work in progress. I mean, and that points kind of back to the sort of negative points, and the fact that it's an introduction to this Inquisitor character, And again, it just leaves you to think, is this going to be something they keep pulling on? But it points to that. They're clearly trying to humanise her and make all the others just seem like villains. She's this tortured, messed up, deeper character and stuff.
Speaking of characters, casting on Leia is brilliant. That little kid playing Leia, she's bloody nailed it.
Like everyone gets scared of like how bad kid actors can be.
Yeah, but she is absolutely smashed that.
Yeah. But also in the fact that and with Obi-Wan remarking on it,
on how much she's like adamant,
and it's such a good bridge between where you're first watching it and you're not even really considering that, because you get jumped into straight thinking, right, this is Leia, this is, and it works and it's fine, it's a great fit, but also the way it's acted as well. And then as soon as he's remarking on like Padme, but also obviously is everything else is implied, and again he barely has to say a word, which is great with anything. And yeah, her presentation of that, and it's
she's basically acting as two people.
But it's like it's when it's something like that. I think the great part of that is probably that it's unconscious in a way.
Yeah.
Because as much as I don't know, she might be like a very hard-working professional, but at the same time she's a kid, and she won't have had that same perception of these movies. But for her to be able to do that, it probably is a benefit in disguise in the fact that she hasn't got all that weight. Whereas I think this is actually going to come into sort of something I wanted to talk about, presentation of Obi-Wan. Everyone was obviously like, if anyone's interested and excited about this show, it's probably largely to do with the fact that Ewan McGregor and these other characters are returning. But his performance almost threw me off at first,
right?
But in a way which completely like flipped on its head, and in fact it didn't bother me. And it's this whole thing of knowing he's trying to present the same character he was, but he's also trying to bridge the gap between the original trilogy and another actor's performance. But you also know when he was doing the prequels, he clearly was trying to adapt another actor's work into a drastically different character, because it's a much younger character. So then by the time it was episode 3, he was trying to meet this middle ground. And yeah, it was that whole, like you said about, like, it was weird to see him all of a sudden because he's actually like really well spoken again, and it's not that you're so used to just hearing him speak Scottish, because he's just like he's not been playing Obi-Wan for this long. But at the same time there was just certain pronunciations and everything, it just seemed different. But I was thinking, I'm glad that he wasn't just trying to basically do a complete copy of what he'd already done. It seemed like more of an actual, like a creative way of being, rather than just a throwaway. It seems like he actually cares about it, because he's going, what can I bring to this? It seemed like he's not going to do it unless he can improve it and do something better, which I think he has done, and I think he will do on the rest of the series, to be fair, because he's really got to stretch his legs, and I think that's one of the best parts of it, is the fact that this is going to focus mainly on him. I don't have, as much as we've said the worries about Inquisitors, I feel like it is going to keep quite closely focused on him.
I should hope so, with the title of the show.
Hold that thought.
Yeah, I will.
Because the series is just going to be to do with his, like, self-acceptance, really. It's this whole like thing where it's not about it's not going to be about revenge, it's not going to be about any of these initial stories and this sort of like threads that might be thrown around. It's going to be getting him to that point of confidence where he meets Vader in episode 4, because as much as you didn't need this show to think about it before, that gap, as soon as we've had a bit more things to look at, things to work with, the gap of him leaving Anakin burning on a lava riverside, to
Bank.
then to
That's what you want.
bank.
Riverbank.
To then meeting him on the Death Star and being ready to sacrifice himself, but knowing it's this lesson, it's this big moment and stuff, and it's this part in his story. Almost seems like a bit of a jump, but it almost seems like a bit of a jump because of the existence of a show like this. But because of an existence of a show like this, we get to have that feeling like there's more to it.
Yeah.
So whether that progresses into some kind of meeting that's going to move us towards that point, then maybe. But I'm going to pick up on a tangent because you've just said about the title.
Yes.
So yeah.
Right, yeah.
The title should imply that it's about this character. But at the same time, I've mentioned this a lot. All the early advertising
When it was first announced and from the
was all down as Kenobi, and I thought, okay, like this is fine, because I had that hesitation with even the whole idea of the series, because I was like, you've got to do this right or just don't bother. But yeah, a title like Kenobi, it worked because we all know that he still went by Ben Kenobi. Smart name choice. Oh, I think you have me mistaken.
Yeah.
My name's Ben. Yeah, Ben Kenobi. I asked in town.
Yeah.
Oh, like it's a stupid
strange.
idea, but we all know that that's the name he went by.
Yeah.
And I can only assume that they're going for the idea that he is still Obi Wan Kenobi, and doing this whole thing that he doesn't. He's had 10 years of just thinking his life's gone, and he's just got to be this different person, basically. So I think it's this idea of you're still keeping that core of what this character is. But it's a mouthful.
I suppose.
For a start.
I suppose they've gone with the whole thing just to purely capture the more casual audience, let's say.
Yeah.
And just go, it is directly about him.
Yeah.
I
mean, that sums up my fears and everything.
Yeah.
And fears and just justifications for some of the things that are done is just, yes, you're just trying to appeal to wider audiences. But that's about as far as I feel like things have maybe been Disneyfied so far. Because, again, it's not down to just one sole person with this, but Deborah Chow running this show, I'm completely happy with. Like, I saw it was in the behind the scenes kind of featurette they released however long ago.
What a director.
And yeah, I mean, this series is just gonna like make me fall more in love with her. Yeah, her episodes of Mandalorian, I mean, we were saying like it was her and what's his name?
Rick, I will tell you.
Rick.
Give me 1 sec.
Yeah, his episodes, I think their episodes were like the standouts. I mean, Bryce Dallas Howard, she made like some great
absolutely
work with like Mandalorian, but like I say their angle with it, it's more just like, right, we know what needs to be done. Whereas I feel like you get that
Rick Famuyiwa. Sorry.
Right, got it.
Absolutely.
Or you have got it if you've heard what he said.
Yep.
Yeah, so I feel like the confidence is that you've got that autograph signed across the screen, basically.
Mm-hmm.
You know exactly what who's worked on this, basically. Yeah. And for me, that's kind of summed up with a shot which, again, is going to be fine for either the casual audiences or the audiences that have just gone into this blindly loving it because they want to see Ewan and Hayden back together. And that's the final... Yeah, you're one of them. And that's the final shot of the episode 2. Episode 2 is part 2, because we're going to get confused with the episodes again.
Yeah.
But it is an episode of something.
Ah.
Damn it, Lucas, why did you use that? And it's his fallout of his initial reaction and realisation that Anakin isn't dead. Vader is very much a real threat on the horizon, basically. And he's basically just crushed.
Well, shit.
Yeah. And we all are.
I've never
at
seen.
that point, I think.
I've never seen anyone portray the phrase "well, shit" better in their face than old Ewan does at that point.
Yeah.
Absolutely nails that one, doesn't it?
From the sort of implication of it in the sort of dulled volume of like Leia asking him, like, what, like, are you okay? And you just knew that wave was had just come over everything. But then you've got that deep, dark sort of just looming sense over that, and literally in the visuals and everything, they're in like a cargo ship at night. You've got this electric sort of lights and all this sort of like darkness behind them, and drops straight into that shot of back to Tank Vader, and it's almost opposite because you've got this like you've got the really sort of polished, intense, almost dreamy sort of shot on Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
Because it's this kind of like, his senses are going mad.
It's that's him.
And it's just
that's him sort of, or as I took it as, that's him reconnecting with the Force, because he's obviously disconnected himself, and that's it all flooding back in, and it does it so well.
But also, with that initial cut as well, because they're just mirroring this shot then to Vader. But the fact as well is like, also then it's just this clean, just no bells and whistles shot of Vader. It literally is just filming him through the glass and water in his full actual prosthetic makeup.
It's fantastic.
No tarting about, nothing. So it literally goes up to Obi-Wan in the darkness, in the looming, in the just basically. So that's like the darkness, and it flicks to the light, but with Vader, and it's just this like clean shot that just pours away, just enough to then get you sort of in, and then leaves you. So that would sum up the fact that I'm just like, I'm very confident in where at least Deborah's headed with this.
Yeah, I've got full confidence in whatever she does, to be honest.
And
like I said,
I don't think there's much that's going to have been messed with, but
no. Where
this is going, I think it is anyone's guess at this point.
Yeah. Well, like I said, like with the trailers only pointed to bits that have happened in these past two episodes, so it's quite literally, I ain't got a clue what they're going to do with it now.
I mean, with the first episode, you thought, okay, this could be that all 6 episodes are pretty much going to revolve around this
little story.
This story of let's save Leia, or at least that's what moves them along. As much as that still might be the case to some degree, I'd say, the worrying part is if it's just too much drawing on this Reva character. But I do feel like they're going to just bookmark that, because I don't think she's going to make it out alive. I think it's going to be this tragic story.
We can live in hope, can't we?
Yeah, because I think she's still rising, but she's still got that motivation, clear motivation of like she's doing this for that reason.
Yeah.
But it's all going to come crashing down, because it's kind of like it's also just that reminder of like how futile it seemed with like Anakin's spiral.
Yeah.
It's obviously not that important,
No.
but of course it's not meant to take away from Obi-Wan or Vader or anything. So I think that's also why she's not going to be this compelling villain or character. It's this kind of thing where I think the part of it is going to come almost in hindsight of just being like, it's tragic and it's futile and it's never going to work.
No.
So I'm expecting like a tragic end for her. Tragic for her. It's going to be enjoyable for everyone else probably. And yeah, I do think it is going to be this, and it's going to be fine for those people that just wanted to come in just because of the sheer enjoyment of it. Also for casual audiences, but at the same time, I'm okay with the fact that this series is going to basically be about him and Vader having that realisation of each other's current position and place, but it's pointing towards this, that's self-acceptance of Obi-Wan as a character, so that he can become what you think is just a bit of a mad old man in episode 4, when really it's the point where he's enlightened. Basically, he's just at the point where he knows what this is, which is why he can meet Vader confidently on his terms and go out on his own terms. I don't know if you've got any sort of like odd expectations or fears or where it might go.
Not really anything other than like from what you've just said now, really.
Because I do feel like
I'm pretty hopeful with it.
Quite vague.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That's what makes it promising for me, is the fact that it's vague now.
Yeah.
Feels like they've wrapped up that little storyline, or the most part of it. So it's like, ooh, what are we going to get now for the next 4 episodes or whatever it is?
Yeah.
I've just thought of one little thing that we completely brushed over in the first episode. The interactions between Kenobi and Owen Lars.
Oh.
Joel Edgerton. What a guy.
It was like a conversation, because
one
the other
thing,
bit, you can only, it was like a passing line, but like in one just brief conversation, that was that setup of their relationship's perfect.
That was amazing.
And again, confidence in that was never questioned, really.
And also, another good thing which makes me hopeful for the rest of the series is the fact that they've almost immediately killed off Flea's character.
The sound
wasn't
that came from you when he appeared.
Was not happy to see him in it.
That's the worrying part. Because I mean, as much as you got what's his name? He was in Eternals. Please update me, or just inform me in the comments.
Kunal.
Yes.
I'm trying to think what character he's in.
Yes.
Thingy, because that film was so memorable. Kingo,
anyway,
finger guns, pew pew pew. That guy.
As much as like he's a character that would be cast in that sort of comic role. It's there's certain things where, like the appearance of Flea, you've got the Jedi in the first episode, Benny Safdie, and you think these appearances, is it appearances because people are, they're mates with some of the people working on it, and it's this kind of passionate thing of just being like, they want to be in this, they want to work in this. But then sometimes it's like with even appearances of characters, you just get that sort of fear of thinking, is it just going to be too much of that? Is it going to be too much of the
They seem to just drip it in enough, though.
But that's what it seems.
That's what I was getting at with that. That whole
setup we're not
amazing.
We're not going to end this on a negative.
No, not at all. That was fantastic, and it was just enough to establish where everyone was at.
Yeah, and that's what it
needed.
That's what the 2 episodes have done. That's what the first one definitely did on its own. Get why the second one's there, and it really gets just you into it. They've just set that groundwork for whatever the possibility is, but they've set it to such a point where I don't mind where that goes at this point.
Yeah.
As long as there's that overarching core of it that seems to be established.
I don't know, I'm just as excited as I would be if it was a proper movie out, that actual feeling of watching it. I don't know if it's because it's Obi-Wan, it felt more connected to the films, so it felt like more of an event, whereas like Mandalorian, because that feels like its own thing. Yeah. Because it's sort of...
as much as I like the episodic thing, and like I said about watching an episode each in succession sort of thing, where it's like a separate thing, I mean, this seems more like one of the ones where I'm happy to just be like, okay, this is a cinematic experience split into parts, which
it feels way more cinematic than...
Yeah, that works for the whole, even the naming that I was moaning about. The fact that it's parts, it just seems like it's split up. So go and watch the first parts of the cinematic experience. Obviously, if you've got it this far, you probably already have, because you wouldn't be interested in hearing a couple of nerds talk about it for half hour. Yeah.
I've got nothing more to say other than it's amazing. I bloody loved it.
It's lovely.
Cannot wait for... Is it Fridays they're out?
It's Fridays, yeah.
I think it's Fridays. They're back to Fridays again. Disney need to sort themselves out and decide.
We'll have a couple of years. There'll be a few rolling like series 2s of things of some of these Marvel shows, and they'll have they'll have a bit more of a schedule.
Figure themselves out.
But at the minute, they just want us to watch something. Give us a week. Let's give you another series. But at the minute, we're on Kenobi, and it's a good one. So I'm happy with that.
I'm more than happy. More than happy.
May the Force be with you. Goodbye.